So the standard test conditions of a solar cells, that is, the STC is an industry-wide standard to indicate the performance of a PV modules. Right. So what are the STC for a solar cell? It is the solar light intensity, or you may call it as insolation. You have to take it as 1 sun, that is 1000 watt per meter square, and the temperature should be 25 degrees centigrade. And one more thing will be the air mass. So what is the air mass? It should be taken as 1.5. Right. So the solar light intensity should be 1000 watt per meter square. The temperature should be 25 degrees centigrade and air mass should be 1.5. All these are the standard test conditions of a PV modules. Right. The conditions approximately represents the solar noon near the spring and autumn equinoxes, with surface of the cell aimed directly at the sun. However, these conditions are rarely encountered in the real world. We came across these conditions very seldom in the contemporary world, but we need to take these 3 parameters as a standard while calculating the efficiency of a solar panels across the globe. As you can see it here, the air mass is nothing but secant theta z, and theta z should be equivalent to secant inverse of air mass, that is 1.5. That is, the standard zenith angle should be 48.2 degrees. Right, though the zenith angle corresponding to the standard test conditions is 48.2 degrees. Then solar cell efficiency. The solar cell efficiency is the ratio of the electrical power output to the solar power input. That is, so the efficiency of a cell is given by P output by P input, whereas the P output is the maximum power that we will get from the solar panel, that is PM, whereas this P input is nothing but the solar input power. This P max, or the maximum power or the power output, will be the product of Vm and Im, whereas the solar power input is the solar radiation intensity multiplied by the area of the solar cell. Therefore, finally, what is the efficiency of a solar cell? It is the power output by power input. The power output is nothing but the maximum power, and maximum power is nothing but Vm and Im, and thereby Vm Im by the power input is the solar radiation intensity multiplied by the area of the cell. So it is the solar cell. The solar cell efficiency will be given by V maximum into I maximum by P input. What is a fill factor? Fill factor is the ratio of maximum power to the theoretical power, which will be Vm Im by VOC into ISC. And therefore, from the fill factor equation, what is Vm into Im? It is nothing but fill factor into VOC into ISC. Therefore, the efficiency of the cell is given by Vm into Im by P input. So Vm and Im can be replaced by fill factor into VOC into ISC, right? And from this equation, what is the efficiency of a cell? It is Vm Im by P input, that is fill factor into VOC into ISC by P input. What is P input? Solar radiation intensity multiplied by area of the cell. It is what is called the efficiency of a solar cell. What are the functions of a solar cell? There are 3 functions of a solar cell. The first one is absorption of sunlight and formation of electron hole pairs. Right. First of all, it has to absorb the sunlight, and this absorbed sunlight will form the electron hole pairs in the depletion region of a solar cell. The second point is separation of these light generated carriers, which means the electrons and holes. The holes are moved towards the P side and electrons will move towards the N side. So it is how we will separate these two. That is the separation of light generated carriers. And the third one is the collection of charge carriers in order to make the current flow through the external circuit. Right. And we need to collect the both light generated electrons and holes at the N side and P side of a solar cell, and we need to make them pass through the external circuit in order to generate the electrical energy by creating the potential difference. So the first one is the absorption of sunlight and formation of electron hole pairs. So when sunlight falls on it, the electrons which are available in the valency band, whose band gap is the electrons which are in the valency band, will move towards the conduction band and thereby creating a hole in the valency band. It is the first thing. So because of the light falling on the solar panel, we are getting the electron hole pairs. The second one is separation of light generated carriers, that is both electrons and holes. So what happens now? So the electrons which are now in the conduction band of the depletion region will move towards the n side and the holes will be on the p side, and thereby we are separating the charge carriers to avoid recombination of the light generated electron and hole pairs. If this step doesn't happen, what happens? The light generated electron and hole will again recombine with each other. If that happens, then there is no working of a solar cell. Even you cannot generate the electrical energy out of that recombination, and thereby we need to separate the light generated free electron and holes across the junction in order to avoid the recombination of them. The third one is the collection of charge carriers in order to make the current flow through the external circuit. So out of these three, if any one of the function is not performing well, then the efficiency of the solar cell automatically will get reduced. Right? Out of these three functions, if any one of the function is not properly done, then automatically the efficiency got reduced. Right? So by using the metal contacts, you are collecting the charge carriers and making them to flow through the external circuit here. Right? You can see it in the diagram. And the next topic is the upper limit of cell parameters. Right? So there are three important parameters of a solar cell. The first one is the open circuit voltage, the second one is the short circuit current, and the last one is the fill factor. These are the three main parameters of a solar cell. Right? So what is an efficiency equation of a solar cell? Which is nothing but fill factor into VOC into ISC by P input. Which means here the higher value of cell efficiency required higher value of all these three parameters. If I want to have high efficiency, it is nothing but I should have high fill factor, I should have high open circuit voltage, and I should have high short circuit current. Whenever I have ISC, VOC and fill factor high, then only my efficiency will be high. Right? So why there is an upper limit? So why should be an upper limit for efficiency, and why should be an upper limit for short circuit current, and why should be an upper limit for open circuit voltage, and why should be an upper limit for fill factor? That we will see in the succeeding slides. Right? The upper limit of short circuit current will be determined by the number of photons in the spectrum. How it is? Let's see. So what should be the upper limit of light generated current? The number of photons in the spectrum limits the short circuit current. Why? We already know that the short circuit current is proportional to what? Photon current. That is solar radiation intensity. The solar radiation consists of what? Photons, and thereby the number of photons are proportional to the short circuit current. The short circuit current is proportional to the number of photons in the solar radiation spectrum. As the number of photons are more, then obviously the short circuit current is also high. If the number of photons are less, then the short circuit current is also less. Right? So what is a photon flux? The number of photons per unit area and per unit time is known as photon flux. The units of this photon flux is photons per centimeter square per second. That is the number of photons that we can get in a 1 centimeter square area in 1 second is nothing but the photon flux. So the photon flux can be obtained by dividing the energy content of the complete solar spectrum at a given wavelength with that of the energy of a single photon at that wavelength. Quite tricky. So what is it? It's very simple, right? What is this? Number of photons is equivalent to the total photon flux in that spectrum divided by the photon flux is nothing but the total energy of the solar spectrum divided by the energy of a single photon. This spectrum consists of n number of photons divided by, so therefore n into energy of single photon by energy of photon, then you will get n, which is nothing but the number of photons. That's it. So the photon energy and the wavelength are related as E is equal to h nu. Nu is a frequency which is given by c by lambda. Therefore E is equal to hc by lambda. If I substitute the value of h, Planck's constant, and the value of c, velocity of light, in the equation, I will get 1.24 by lambda electron volts. That lambda should be in micrometers. Right. So when the photon is absorbed in a solar cell, it generates an electron hole pair which is separated by the junction and transported to the external circuit. Right. If this cycle is completed without electron and hole being recombined, then the photon contribute to the current flowing through the solar cell to that load, which means if there is a recombination happening, then that recombined electron and hole will not contribute to the current. So once the first function is light has to fall on the solar cell and it has to create the electron hole pairs, and the second function is to separate the electron and hole pairs. Right. So if second function is not happening properly, then what happens? The efficiency of a solar cell will decreases and thereby the performance of a solar cell got affected. Therefore, the number of photons which are falling on a solar cell is proportional to the short circuit current. Therefore, if all these three functions of a solar cell are not performed properly, then automatically we will get a loss in the performance. You clearly understand here. The electron and hole pair, which are generated in the first step, if they got recombined in the second step without separating from each other, then what happens? That electron and hole is not contributing towards the electricity and thereby they are nothing but a lost. Right. Therefore, in order to estimate the maximum value of the short circuit current, we have to look at the range of photons, that is their number as well as the energy of the photons which are the part of the solar spectrum and are able to excite an electron. So for maximum value of short circuit current, we have to assume that there is no recombination in the material. That is, each photon contributes to one electron flow to the load. That is, each photon contributes to one electron flow to the load. From every photon, we are getting one electron and one hole. From a single photon, we are getting one electron and one hole. From 10 photons, we will get 10 electrons and 10 holes. From 1 million photons, we will get 1 million electrons and 1 million holes. That is so, to get the maximum current or the short circuit current from the solar panel or a solar cell, the concept should be there should be no recombination of these generated electron and hole pairs. Then, so not every photon which is falling on the solar cell in reality results in one electron, because of all the incident photons, some of the photons lost due to reflection and some of the photons lost due to transmission. Some of the photons lost due to recombination of the generated electron hole pairs. But the highest limit is achieved when every photon results in one electron. Ideally speaking, every photon which is striking the solar cell should contribute to one electron. But practically speaking, of the 100 photons which are falling on the solar cell, some 23 got reflected and some 20 got transmitted and some 5 got recombined, and the rest of them are only contributed towards the electricity. You can see it here. A photon is required to possess the energy higher than that of the band gap of the material in order to be absorbed. Right? It's very common fact. So what is band gap? The amount of energy required to move an electron from valency band to conduction band. If I make a solar panel or a solar cell with silicon which is having a band gap of 1.21 electron volts, the solar radiation which is falling on the solar panel should have an intensity or an energy more than that of the band gap of the silicon, that is 1.21 electron volts. Then only it can able to move an electron from valency band to conduction band. And when that happens only, you will get the electrical energy. And those all the photons which are having energy less than the band gap of the silicon will never be able to move an electron from valency band to the conduction band. Right, so even though they are falling on a solar cell, they are waste. So the material with larger band gap will absorb less number of photons as compared to the material with a low band gap. It is also evident that a material which is having high band gap will absorb less number of photons when compared to the materials which are having low band gap. Therefore, the short circuit current will increase with decrease in band gap energy. You can see it in the graph over here. There is a variation of short circuit current with band gap. So as the band gap on the x-axis is increasing, the short circuit current is decreasing. Right? That is what the concept is all about. As the band gap increases, the short circuit current decreases. Here they have given two spectrums. One is AM0 and AM1.5. AM0 is nothing but the extraterrestrial radiation and AM1.5 is nothing but the standard test condition radiation of a solar cell. Right? So we have to consider AM1.5. But in both AM0 and AM1.5, what is that you are observing? You are observing that as the band gap increases, the short circuit current is reducing. So let's see this by means of an example. In figure 1, I have taken a material which is having a band gap of 2 electron volts. Therefore, in order to move an electron from valency band to the conduction band, that material should be stricken by the solar radiation which is having the band gap more than 2 electron volts. If the band gap is 2.5 electron volts, yes, that 2.5 electron volt radiation can, or the photon, or the 2.5 electron volt energy photon can be able to move an electron from valency band to conduction band. The energy of the photon is 1.2 electron volts or 1.5 electron volts or 1.7 electron volts or 1.9 electron volts or 0.7 electron volts. They cannot move an electron from valency band to conduction band in that particular material, and thereby obviously it is the case. Right, you observe it here in figure 2. What is the case there? In figure 2, the band gap of that material is 1 electron volt, which is less than that of the band gap of a material in figure 1. And now what happens? See, because the band gap is 1 electron volt, all the photons which are not entering into the material in figure 1 now can enter the material in figure 2. 1.5 electron volt, 1.2 electron volt, 2.5 electron volt, even 3 electron volt or more than that can move through the material in figure 2 because of its less band gap. Right? Therefore, the material with less band gap will contribute to more number of electron hole pairs. Therefore, the materials with less band gap will contribute to more number of electron hole pairs. Therefore, short circuit current generated will be very, very high. Right? So, for silicon which is having a band gap of 1.12 electron volt, the maximum possible short circuit current is 46 milliampere per centimeter square. As you can clearly observe here, as the band gap is high, the number of photons absorbed by the material are less, and thereby the number of electron hole pair generated will be less, and thereby the electricity generation will be less, and thereby the performance of a solar cell will be less. On the contrary, in the figure 2, as the band gap of a material is less, then the number of photons absorbing by that material will be more. Then the number of electron hole pairs generated also will be high, and thereby the efficiency of a solar panel also will be very, very high because of generation of more electricity. Thereby, as the band gap is less, it is advantageous for a solar cell. That is, as the band gap is less, the short circuit current that can be obtained from a solar cell will be higher. Therefore, the short circuit current is inversely proportional to the band gap. As band gap increases, the short circuit current decreases. As band gap increases, the short circuit current decreases. As band gap decreases, the short circuit current increases. So, for a silicon solar cell with 1.12 electron volts band gap, the maximum possible short circuit current is 46 milliampere per centimeter square. Above that, it is never possible. It is the highest limit of the short circuit current that we can obtain from a solar cell, which is made of silicon, that is 46 milliampere per centimeter square, right? So the material with less band gap will contribute to more number of electron hole pairs, and therefore short circuit current generated will be very high. The short circuit current is inversely proportional to band gap. As the band gap is less, the short circuit current will be more. But in our solar spectrum, we have photons with energy ranging from 0.3 to 3.5 electron volts. You can see the solar spectrum here. You have different energies ranging from 0.3 electron volts to 3.5 electron volts. So why don't we take a material having band gap of very least, that is 0.3 electron volts, so that each and every photon will get absorbed and will contribute to more number of electron hole pairs, and thereby the short circuit current generated by the solar cell will be high. It's a point, right? So why don't we take a material having very less band gap of 0.3? If the minimum is 0.3 electron volt, if I take a material which is having 0.3 electron volt, then all the radiation have to be absorbed by this material. Why we are taking silicon which is having 1.12 electron volts instead of 0.3 electron volt material? But one thing we have to remember, efficiency is not only depends on the short circuit current. It also depends on other two parameters, that is open circuit voltage and fill factor. Now let's discuss the open circuit voltage in order to answer this question. So what is the upper limit of open circuit voltage, and how this upper limit of open circuit voltage would be decided? If a photon of energy higher than the band gap is absorbed by the material, it excites an electron from valency band to the conduction band, raising the potential by an amount equal to Q into V. Therefore, the potential energy or the band gap, that is EZ, equivalent to Q into V, right? And this VOC is nothing but EZ by Q, that is the open circuit voltage is the ratio of band gap by the charge of an electron. Therefore, higher the band gap, higher the open circuit voltage. Since Q is a constant, VOC is directly proportional to band gap. So the upper limit of VOC is decided by the band gap energy of that material. So open circuit voltage is directly proportional to the band gap. That is, as band gap is more, VOC is more. As band gap is less, VOC is also less. So in silicon, what is the band gap? 1.12 electron volts. Therefore, substituting that into the equation, so VOC will be given as EZ by Q, which will be EZ for silicon is 1.12 electron volts by the charge of an electron is E. E and E got cancelled in the numerator as well as in the denominator, which is giving us 1.12 electron volts. It is the maximum open circuit voltage that we can get from a solar cell, ideally. But in practice, we will get a value even less than 1.12 electron volts. So what is the equation of a VOC? VOC equal to KT by Q ln of IL by I naught plus 1. This IL is nothing but the photon current and I naught is the reverse saturation current. Q is the charge of an electron, T is the temperature, and K is the Boltzmann constant. I naught plays a significant role in determining the value of VOC. That is, lower the value of I naught, higher will be the value of VOC. If I naught is less, then VOC will be more. If I naught is more, then VOC will be less. Therefore, I naught plays a very key role in determining the value of VOC. So here we have come across an equation called reverse saturation current equation. That is, I naught equal to AQ into dN Ni square by Ln into Na plus dP Ni square by Lp into Nd, where A is the area of the cell, Q is the charge of an electron, Dn and dP are the diffusion coefficients of N side and P side of a solar cell, Ni is the intrinsic carrier concentration, Ln and Lp are nothing but the length of the N side and P side. What is the length of N side? 1 micrometer. What is the length of P side? 100 micrometer. Na and Nd are nothing but the acceptor and donor concentrations. So if I substitute the standard values into that equation, I can get I naught as 1.5 into 10 to the power of 5 e power minus Ez by kT. That is, I naught depends on the material parameters, and the value of I naught can be best estimated using the material parameters. So the best value of I naught can be estimated using what? Band gap. Therefore, I naught is proportional to what? Band gap. Right. So what is the upper limit of open circuit voltage for a solar cell made of silicon? So VOC is nothing but KT by Q ln of IL by I naught plus 1. This IL is nothing but the IP, that is the photon current. So this VOC is depending on two parameters here. The first one is IL and the second parameter is I naught. Now let's see what is the concept here. So VOC is a function of IL, that is the or IP, which is a light generated current. As the light intensity increases, the IL value also increases. Whenever the IL increases, VOC increases. It's a common fact. And second one is the open circuit voltage is also a function of reverse saturation current I naught. And where I naught is a function of intrinsic carrier concentration, diffusion coefficient of N side and P side, length of P side and N side, donor and acceptor carrier concentrations. Therefore, as temperature increases, the intrinsic carrier concentration also will increase. And whenever this Ni increases, as you can see in the equation, Ni square is there. So as Ni increases, I naught also increases. But whenever I naught increases, what happens to VOC? Decreases. Right. As the temperature increases, Ni increases. As Ni increases, I naught increases. As I naught increases, VOC decreases. Right. So intrinsic carrier concentration is a function of band gap. So the band gap, as the band gap increases, the number of valency electrons moving from valency band to the conduction band decreases, and thereby intrinsic carrier concentration decreases. Right. You can see an example here. You take a material 1 and material 2. Material 1 is having a band gap of Eg1 and material 2 is having a band gap of Eg2. And what is the comparison between these two materials? This material 2 is having higher band gap compared to material 1. That is, Eg2 is greater than Eg1 or Eg1 is less than Eg2. Now, the first material, which is having low band gap, the number of photons absorbed by the material is higher, and thereby the electron hole pairs generated will be very, very high. This electron hole pairs generated is nothing but the intrinsic carrier concentration. Thereby, as the band gap is less, the intrinsic carrier concentration is high in case of a material 1. Coming to material 2, that is Eg2, as the band gap, now coming to the material 2, which is having a band gap Eg2, the band gap is very, very high, and thereby the number of photons absorbed by this material is less, and thereby the electron hole pair generated is also less, and thereby the intrinsic carrier concentration is less. Right. So what is the observation that we can make from this? As the band gap increases, intrinsic carrier concentration decreases. Whenever the intrinsic carrier concentration decreases, automatically I naught decreases. Whenever the I naught decreases, the open circuit voltage increases. Right. Is it clear? As the band gap increases, the open circuit voltage increases. That is, the open circuit voltage is directly proportional to the band gap. So there is a contradiction. What is that? So the efficiency of a solar cell is fill factor into VOC into ISC by P input. Fine. So in order to design a solar cell, so the high efficiency means high short circuit current, high open circuit voltage and high fill factor. But as the band gap increases, the short circuit current decreases. As the band gap increases, the open circuit voltage also increases. There is a contradiction here. If I increase the band gap, VOC increases, but ISC decreases. Because the short circuit current ISC is inversely proportional to band gap, and the open circuit voltage VOC is directly proportional to the band gap. So, therefore, an optimized value of the band gap is required. It should not be very high or it should not be very less. There should be an optimum band gap which satisfies both ISC and VOC. Therefore, the maximum possible value of VOC for silicon solar cells is 0.85 volts. Is 0.85 volts. Now, this answers my question, right? Why I should not take a material which is having very least energy or band gap, 0.3 electron volt. If I take a material having 0.3 electron volt, which is the least, then the open circuit voltage will come out to be very less, even though the short circuit current will be very high, right? And if I multiply both, the power will be obviously less, right? So, to avoid that, I should not take a material which is having very high band gap or which is having very low band gap. If I take a material which is having very high band gap, say more band gap, then what happens? VOC will be very high, but ISC will be very less. If I multiply both, then the power will be negligible or zero or very small. And therefore, I need to optimize a band gap in such a way that it should not be very high or it should not be very less. In that case, the maximum possible value of open circuit voltage for silicon solar cells is 0.85 volts. So, what is the upper limit of fill factor? So, how the upper limit of fill factor would be decided? The fill factor is essentially a measure of quality of a solar cell. It is the ratio of maximum power to the theoretical power. The fill factor can also be interpreted graphically as the ratio of two rectangles, the ideal rectangle and the practical rectangle. So, what is a fill factor? A fill factor is nothing but the ratio of maximum power to the theoretical power. What is the maximum power? That is the practical rectangle, that is Vmax into Imax, that is a blue color rectangle. And what is the theoretical power? The grey color rectangle, which is a theoretical power, that is VOC into ISC. So, the ideal value of fill factor should be 100% or 1. Therefore, there are always a resistance. There are always resistance losses in terms of series resistance and shunt resistance, which reduces the value of the fill factor. This shunt resistance is the non-ideality corresponding to constant current source, and the series resistance is a non-ideality corresponding to constant voltage source of a solar cell. A solar cell is a combination of both a constant voltage source and a constant current source, which we have already seen in our previous semester. So, the best value of fill factor can be obtained for a solar cell can empirically be given as a function of open circuit voltage. Therefore, fill factor is equal to VOC minus ln of VOC plus 0.72 by VOC plus 1, where VOC is a open circuit voltage normalized to thermal voltage, which means the small VOC is nothing but capital VOC by KT by Q. KT by Q is the VT, which is the thermal equivalent voltage. Therefore, VOC by VT is nothing but small VOC. The fill factor now is a function of three parameters. One is the series resistance, shunt resistance and VOC. It is observed that the solar cells with higher VOC has higher fill factor. Higher VOC means higher fill factor. It is observed that solar cells with less RSC and high RSH has higher fill factor. Fine. The ideal value of RSH is infinity and the ideal value of RSC should be 0, and thereby the RSH value should be very high and RSC value should be very low in order to be the fill factor very high. So, good solar cells typically will have fill factor values in the range of 0.8 or very close to it. So what is the upper limit of solar cell efficiency? What can be the upper limit of solar cell efficiency? The solar cell efficiency will be given by fill factor into VOC into ISC by P input. The high efficiency means high short circuit current, high open circuit voltage and high fill factor. But there is a contradiction which we have already seen. As the band gap is increasing, the short circuit current is decreasing and open circuit voltage is increasing. Therefore, an optimum value of band gap is required for which the efficiency of the solar cell is maximum. So, the efficiency of a solar cell is affected by three parameters. The first one is the spectrum. It is either AM0 or AM1.5. If it is AM0, the efficiency will be very high. If it is AM1.5, the efficiency will be less compared to that at AM0. Because AM0 corresponds to extraterrestrial radiation, but AM1.5 corresponds to terrestrial radiation. But we always know that the radiation in the extraterrestrial space will be very higher compared to the radiation in the terrestrial region. Single or multi-junction. If there is a single junction, then the efficiency will be quite less. If there is a multi-junction, then the efficiency will be quite high, which we have seen in the last semester, gallium arsenic solar cells or multi-junction solar cells. If I go for multi-junction solar cells, the efficiency can range up to 40%. But a normal efficiency of a single junction solar cell 17 to 20%. And the third point is with or without light concentration. 1 sun, 2 sun or n suns. That is, 1 sun means 1000 watt per meter square, 2 suns means 2000 watt per meter square, 10 sun means 10,000 watt per meter square. As the solar radiation intensity falling on the solar cell is more, obviously the efficiency also will be more because of generation of more amount of electron hole pairs. So the maximum solar efficiency of about 31% is obtained from the optimum band gap of 1.45 electron volts at an STC of 1 sun, 25 degrees centigrade and AM 1.5. You can see there are different semiconductor materials here. For silicon, the band gap is 1.12 electron volt, whereas the efficiency at this band gap is 23%. For cadmium telluride, the band gap is 1.42 and efficiency is 25%. For gallium arsenide, the efficiency is 31% at 1.45 electron volts. For germanium, it is 0.7 electron volt and the efficiency is 13%. As you can see from this table as well as from this graph, that the optimum value of the efficiency of a solar cell will be about 31%, and that is obtained by a material called gallium arsenide, which is having a band gap of 1.45 electron volts. Now, why silicon is preferred for solar cells? Even though the gallium arsenide is having 1.45 electron volts band gap and having an efficiency of 31%, but we will prefer silicon for fabrication of solar cells. Why? There are three reasons. The first one is the second most abundant element in the earth's crust aside oxygen. And the second point is the device physics of the silicon is well understood and the art of producing high purity samples is largely perfected by using silicon technology. The third point is the cost of producing silicon is less expensive compared to all other types of semiconductor materials. That is the reason why silicon is preferred for fabricating the solar cells over other devices.